Berlin, 1936. The stadium roars with applause as German athlete Hans Wellke wins the shot put, bringing the Reich its first gold in athletics. Hitler applauds his hero. Cameras capture the triumph for propaganda. 7 years later, in the Belarusian forests, a partisan bullet ends the life of an Olympian who served as a punisher in the occupied territories. His death will be a verdict for the whole village. 149 people, old men, women, and children, will be burned alive in a barn. Friends, subscribe to the channel. On August 1st, 1936, Berlin turned into a gigantic stage of dictatorship. The Olympic Games opened in a city decorated with Nazi banners and filled with soldiers. Adolf Hitler watched from the podium, surrounded by the thunder of 100,000 voices. The world came to celebrate sports, but here the competitions turned into a demonstration of strength and propaganda. Every march, every greeting, every medal was supposed to prove the might of the so-called New Germany. Athletes from all over the world competed, but in Berlin, the competition was no longer just about glory. Now, it was a struggle of ideologies, dominance, and a vision of the Reich claiming superiority over all others. In this charged arena, one German athlete captured the attention of the public, embodying the hopes of the regime and winning the admiration of Hitler. But he was no ordinary athlete. Years later, during World War II, far from stadiums and cheers, he would take part in operations in the occupied territory of Belarus, where German units and their allies would kill more than 13,000 men, women, and children. His name was Hans Wellke. Hans Otto Wellke was born on February 18, 1911, in the city of Bischofsburg, then part of the German Empire. After Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany on January 30, 1933, he immediately set about reforming the nation. Germany's main priority was to prepare for war. One of the first major steps was the restoration of military power, severely limited by the Treaty of Versailles. By 1935, Hitler had openly violated the treaty by restoring universal military service and increasing the size of the army. At the same time, he created the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, expanded the fleet, returning Germany to the status of a major military power.
But even at the height of rearmament, 1936 brought a completely different scene to the Nazi regime: the Summer Olympics in Berlin. For 2 weeks in August, the Nazi dictatorship of Adolf Hitler disguised its racist and militaristic nature by accepting peace. By downplaying the anti-Semitic agenda and plans for territorial seizures, the regime used the games to impress and deceive numerous foreign visitors. The United States and other Western democracies discussed boycotting the games, but eventually decided to participate. By this decision, they missed the chance to take a position that, as some observers argued, could have forced Hitler to stop and strengthened resistance to Nazi tyranny. It was during these games, carefully staged to showcase Nazi Germany to the world, that Hans Wellke became famous for his remarkable performance.
In Berlin, Welke competed in the shot put and demonstrated a powerful series of throws. His best attempt reached 16.20 meters and won the gold medal. This Olympic victory became the first German gold in men's track and field athletics. The moment of triumph was captured in Leni Riefenstahl's famous film Olympia, which further cemented Welke's place in the carefully constructed propaganda showcase of Nazi Germany. After the Olympics, Welke continued his sports career. At the 1938 European Championships in Paris, he won a bronze medal in the shot put with a score of 15.52 meters. In addition to athletics, Welke was a member of the Berlin Police Sports Club and trained under Wilhelm Landmesser. Standing 1.78 meters tall and weighing 105 kilograms, he embodied the image of power that the regime wanted to promote. Outside the stadium, Welke served as a policeman. In recognition of his Olympic triumph, he was promoted from Revier Senior Sergeant to Police Lieutenant. His rise showed how deeply the Nazi state intertwined athletic success with political and military rewards. World War II began on September 1, 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. On Sunday, June 22, 1941, codenamed Operation Barbarossa, Nazi Germany attacked the Soviet Union. The war against the USSR was a war of annihilation between German fascism and Soviet communism, a racial war between German Aryans and subhumans, Slavs and Jews. After the invasion of the Soviet Union, the Nazi regime unleashed a campaign of unprecedented brutality. As the German army advanced, Nazi forces, including the SS and the Einsatzgruppen, the Nazi mobile death squads, systematically massacred civilians, especially Jews, communists, and other groups deemed undesirable by Nazi ideology. Entire villages were wiped off the face of the earth in mass executions. Millions of Soviet prisoners of war were subjected to starvation, forced labor, and numerous executions. In response, the Soviet partisans emerged as a powerful resistance force behind enemy lines. These groups, consisting of Red Army soldiers, local residents, and communist activists, conducted sabotage operations against the German occupiers. They blew up railways, ambushed convoys, and provided critical intelligence information to the Soviet military. The harsh conditions of war in the forests and swamps of the Soviet Union tested their resilience, but the partisans played a vital role in disrupting German supply lines and communications. Their efforts not only hindered the German war machine, but also bolstered Soviet morale during the darkest days of the conflict.
In February 1943, the Nazis launched Operation Hornung, deploying a significant number of German troops and local collaborators in the occupied territory of Belarus. Their mission was to root out guerrilla resistance, destroy villages suspected of helping the guerrillas, and eliminate or capture civilians who were believed to be supporting the guerrillas. Operation Hornung claimed almost 13,000 lives, among them men, women, and children. The Germans lost only 29 soldiers. Operations in Belarus focused mainly on the area around Minsk, the capital, where the Germans were trying to create a so-called dead zone that would deprive the partisans of food, shelter, and civilian support. Hans Wellke served in the area, and by 1943, he was one of 3 company commanders in Battalion 118, a unit composed primarily of Ukrainian auxiliary forces. His battalion often operated alongside the infamous Dirlewanger Brigade, led by Oskar Dirlewanger, a convicted maniac. Dirlewanger's formation consisted of released criminals, including murderers and rapists, and became famous for its brutality.
On the morning of March 22, 1943, Welke was riding in a small convoy of 3 cars along the Minsk highway when Soviet partisans set up an ambush. He was wounded in the shoulder in the first moments of the shootout. After getting out of the car, he received another wound in the back, this time fatal. He was 32 years old. Posthumously, Adolf Hitler and Heinrich Himmler, the leader of the SS, promoted Welke to Major of the Nazi Germany Security Police. 3 of his soldiers also died in battle, and the surviving partisans retreated to the nearby village of Khatyn, located about 50 kilometers northeast of Minsk. When the German forces and their collaborators reached the settlement, the partisans were gone. Only civilians remained. The death of the renowned German Olympian, however, demanded brutal retribution in the eyes of the Nazis. Unable to continue the pursuit, they called for reinforcements, and on the way back, they shot 20 to 25 forest workers, accusing them of helping the partisans.
In the afternoon, members of Dirlewanger's unit arrived as reinforcements, joining a platoon from Battalion 118 under the command of former Red Army senior lieutenant and Nazi collaborator Grigory Vasura. Together, they surrounded the village. The fact that the guerrillas killed the Olympic medalist probably increased the brutality of the retaliation that awaited the villagers. Unaware of an earlier attack on a Nazi convoy and the death of a German officer, civilians, young and old, women and children, were driven out of their homes and driven into a barn at gunpoint. When all the people were inside, the Nazis locked the door, covered the barn with straw, doused it with gasoline, and set it on fire. When the flames spread, the trapped villagers managed to kick down the door, but those who tried to escape were mowed down by machine gun fire. Among the burned victims were also women with babies in their arms. Approximately 149 people, including 75 children under the age of 16, died from fire, bullets, or smoke inhalation. After that, the village was looted and burned to the ground. 8 villagers survived, 6 of whom witnessed the massacre, 5 children and 1 adult. Viktor Andreevich Zhelobkovich, who was 8 years old at the time of the massacre, was saved by his mother. After the war, he recalled how people went crazy with fear during the massacre, realizing that they were about to be burned. At one point, he wanted to get up, but his mother pressed his head and said, "Don't move, son, stay still." Then something hit him hard in the arm, and he told his mother that he was bleeding, but she didn't answer because she was already dead. He eventually survived the barn fire by hiding under his mother's body. Another survivor, Joseph Kamensky, was the only adult to come out of the massacre alive and recalled the horrific scene as follows. "My 15-year-old son Adam and I were at the wall. Dead people were falling on me. Those who were still alive were rushing past like a wave. Blood was pouring from the bodies of the wounded and the dead. The burning roof collapsed. The wild, terrible howling of the people intensified. Those below were burning to death, screaming and convulsing convulsively. The roof was literally spinning. It was the death of Hans Wellke, the Olympic hero who was once idolized by Hitler, that became the pretext for the massacre in Khatyn.